In India's capital, floodwaters have now reached the iconic historic Red Fort. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. The images that we're seeing from across North India are truly staggering. But should we be shocked? Environmentalists and experts have long warned that if we continue this sort of build-up, especially along river embankments, then what we're seeing today from Pithoragarh to Patel Nagar is guaranteed to happen. But what is wrong with us? Why is it that it takes a calamity for us to go into a ritual of hand wringing till the next calamity and the next calamity? The Chief Minister of Delhi is now warning that drinking water supply could be impacted in the capital as water treatment plants have also been hit by the flood waters of the Yamuna River that is at its highest level in 45 years. And if you think this is a story only about Delhi, it is not. It is also a story about Uttarakhand. It is a story about Himachal Pradesh. It is a story about Haryana. And tomorrow, it could be your state, your city, your town where exactly this happens. Let me welcome now to the program one of India's foremost experts, one of those experts who's been warning all along. And I remember she said this very dire warning on this show. She said, you can't teach the Himalayas like they're the Greater Kailash parking lot. I want to bring up on the program now Sunita Narain. Sunita, I remember that sentence. We were talking about Uttarakhand at that time, and you said the Himalayas are not a GK1 parking lot. Nobody seems to understand. It always takes a calamity of the kind that we're seeing unfold in the national capital for us to go into, oh, why did this happen? It was bound to happen, wasn't it? It was inevitable, wasn't it?
Barkha, the tragedy now is that whatever the scale of tragedy, calamity, and you will have noticed, and all your viewers would have noticed that what was once in a 10-year flood or once in a 10-year disaster is now becoming an almost once in 2 years or once in a year extreme weather event disaster. And yet we are not understanding the reality. The reality very clearly is two things. One, we are mismanaging our own drainage system terribly. We are building on floodplains. We are not providing for space for rivers to flow. The floodplains of rivers are being encroached upon. We are building on the tanks, the ponds that are the sponges of our cities. We are not thinking of drainage. That is one. But on top of it, what you have today is what is the tipping factor, you can call it, or the factor which is really tipping us over is climate change. I mean, what do you have today? Why is this extreme rain event happening in North India? You have a collision of two systems happening. One, the Western disturbance, which because of climate change is coming later and later in the year, becoming more variable. Now that is happening because the Western disturbance is linked to the jet stream of the Arctic, which is weakening. So you have to understand how global weather is. Now the other thing that has happened is that the Bay of Bengal has seen extreme heat. They are talking about that they have never measured this kind of heat in the Bay of Bengal, which has led to an early onset of the monsoon. Two systems have collided over North India. And you're seeing this absolute devastation. It's Bihar, it's Uttar Pradesh, Delhi. We've seen Himachal. You please remember, even Ladakh has gone under in the last 10 days. It has been horrific. There is development cost, there is human cost, and yet my biggest sense of worry, call it frustration, is you and I will be here again next year, maybe even earlier than next year, saying, why are we not learning? We now have to repair and learn and build what we keep talking. We talk about climate resilient infrastructure. But everything we do is in the reverse.
I'm glad you brought up climate change because I was going to ask you, how much of this is climate change, how much of it is what we have done to our cities, and I think you make the point that it is certainly a combination of both. Do you think part of the denial comes from the fact that there is still a class specificity to every tragedy? Even in the last 24 hours, we have seen the desperately poor, those who live on the bank of the river, migrant workers, daily wage workers, be the people who have had to pick up their belongings and actually flee. Is it that our class of people, the people of relative privilege, believe that we are exempt? And how do we explain to the world that nobody is exempt? That when houses come crashing down, when water comes right to the door of the chief minister's residence, nature is trying to tell us something.
So, Barkha, we have crossed that line, frankly. The revenge of nature today is a great equalizer. I mean, the floods in India are, Italy has had horrific floods last week. Spain has had terrible floods. You're basically talking about the whole world reeling, rich or poor. And even in India, we may think that we can build our barriers, we won't be affected. The poor who live on the floodplains will be. There is no doubt, Barkhat, the poor are the first victims of climate change. They are the ones who have to be evacuated, pick up their belongings, they lose their homes. Forget the floods that you're seeing right now. Close your eyes and just think about the farmers of India who have to reel with temperature changes, weather which is cold, which is hot. Today the advisory that the farmers have got from the agromet department says do not plant kharif right now. So what happens? When do they plant? What do they do? I mean, this is throwing a whole system out of gear. I mean, my colleagues at CSE have put together, at Down to Earth, put together this database of extreme weather events in India. And we have recorded one extreme weather event a day last year between the 1st of January to the 30th of September. This year, the record is even more. So you have to understand, we have tipped over. And there is a combination of climate change, but a lot of it, what you're showing on your screen, is also the sheer arrogance of humankind, of mankind, that we disrespect nature to this extent. We build on the floodplains of rivers. We build in a way that we forget the fragility of the Himalayas. We are really, it's nature is talking to us. In fact, she's screaming at us right now. And I just wish we would listen.
When you say that your research showed that there is one extreme weather incident every day, do you mean in India in the last year?
Yeah. Yes. So what we did was, Barkha, put together the database of IMD. So IMD puts out a daily advisory on what they classify as extreme weather event. It could be extreme rainfall, it could be lightning, it could be landslide, it could be. So they have a definition of what they call extreme in each category of a weather event. So my colleagues very painstakingly went through the database of IMD every day, because it's not provided to you on a monthly basis. You have to download a daily report, feed it into a system of ours, our database, and then we've put together this data, and it is horrific. And we have to understand the impact of this on the people who live with nature. That is our farmers in most cases. But the visuals on your screen should really tell all of us that it's time we learned. And it is possible. It is not as if this is anti-development. I keep saying, I'm not saying don't build hydroelectric plant in the Himalayas. You must, because it's a gain of the Himalayas that you get electricity from it. But don't build it as if you were doing a mall one after the other without thinking about the fact that this is Himalayas. Keep in mind how you will optimize the water of the Himalayas, provide electricity to the people living in the Himalayas, but not jeopardize the mountains. Same with roads. Of course, we need border roads. This is an important part. But what is the extra cost that you will have to put into making the roads so that you do not blast the Himalayas? If you blast them, you repair them. You have to, there is a term called climate resilient infrastructure. And what I'm struggling to understand is what in the last 2 years have we done to incorporate that into all our planning, whether it's in the hills or whether it is in the city of Delhi. Delhi talks about the fact that we will repair our lakes, our ponds. We are nowhere close to it. Okay, today the Yamuna is so silted up, it's so full of rubbish and mud and everything else that we can cry about Haryana releasing the water, but the fact is, our river. I mean, the only good thing with this flood, if you can call it a good thing, is it's a natural flushing system. That at least the pollution for once is going to be flushed out. But we will continue to put our 21 nalas full of pollution back in the river as of tomorrow. But it's very
Yeah.
important, therefore, for us to start incorporating this into our planning and our execution. I hate the word planning now because planning seems like you have to do it tomorrow. I think it's implementation now.
Can I ask you to talk about how states are, water wars, as it were, within India? So you have Pithoragarh, releasing dams, releasing water. You have Haryana releasing it into Delhi. This is turning into a full-blown political a sort of dispute. What is the best way? Every state is, of course, looking out for their own interests, but is opening the floodgates literally and then having that water spill over into an adjoining state the answer?
Barkha, this is I think it's a kindergarten discussion, if I may. There is just, I cannot call it another word. I mean, those dams have been built also to provide water for Delhi. Okay. We draw our water from the Teri Dam in Delhi, in Rishikesh. We require these dams for our own electricity. So, we have to stop dividing India between states. And one of the things nature is teaching us, whether it's the airshed of pollution or whether it is rivers, everybody lives downstream, Barkha. Everybody lives downstream. So Delhi's pollution reaches Mathura. Delhi gets the pollution of of Haryana upstream. Delhi will get the flood waters when the floods are opened. Now, what this requires, and this is part of a governance system, where when when any dam water is released, there is the Central Water Electricity Commission and other authorities which play a role, which talk about how much release will happen, what will be the impact on downstream. But you have to understand, if you don't release the water in the dam, it'll burst. And if it bursts, you will have even greater mayhem. So I think we should really stop letting kindergarten politics be part of this discourse. This is too serious for this. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm being a little strong on this, but I really would like you to understand how we need to work together on this issue.
No, I'm glad you said it, but I don't see our politicians paying heed to it. So I have to ask you that question. Let me ask you another question. We're actually seeing an unprecedented situation of drinking water, potable water supply possibly be hit in India's national capital because of the water treatment plants. What are the implications of this? We're now saying not just are we going to see low-lying areas flooded, that people, who could easily fall sick because they're not necessarily going to have access to clean drinking water. And this isn't just the areas in the floods. This is all of India's capital that depends on this water cleaning, these water cleaning plants. Can you explain to our audience what the implication is of the water treatment plants being impacted?
Barkha, I don't know enough about it. I don't want to create a scare in Delhi. I don't know. I think that's where the authorities need to inform us. There are two truths to the matter. The only things that I can tell you, not about Delhi, please, I do not know enough about how serious is the contamination of water in Delhi and how serious is the threat. I can only tell you that when the floods happen today, one of the biggest challenges that the world is facing is the coming back of cholera. Now, one of the reasons why cholera is coming back in countries of Africa is because of flooding. And that's getting linked again to variable and extreme weather events. Now, it does not have to happen, Barkha. So please, I want to say this very carefully, because I do not want viewers to start saying, oh, it's going to be cholera. It doesn't have to happen. Okay. There is also no doubt that some of these infrastructure that have been built close to the floodplains. Okay, the Wazirabad water treatment plant, the Sonia Vihar water treatment plant are both in the close to the Yamuna floodplains. Rightly so, because the water of the Yamuna, or in Sonia Vihar, the water of Ganga, is piped to these plants, where it is treated and then supplied to across Delhi. Now, that is also a call to say, let's look at how would you flood proof these plants. But also, let's be very clear to the people of Delhi that if we allow floods to happen, then water contamination becomes the one biggest problem. I mean, Barkha, you have seen the roads of Delhi today. That's not flood water only, it's also sewage, okay, which is
Yeah.
flowing right now. So you have to be very clear what is the floods always lead to a health problem. And we in Delhi have, and across Uttarakhand, please, we need to keep it's happening in Delhi. So suddenly we're all jumping up and down. But the fact is, every part of India which is reeling under floods. Assam has had the worst floods this year, and they have started even earlier than last year. Okay? So you have to be clear. We are in a time when we have to have preparedness, we need infrastructure, and be very clear. With climate change, weather will become more and more variable and extreme as we go on, which means the only way we can cope with this is to have preparedness,
Okay, Sunita was making a very important point when we lost that connection to her. But I can see her trying to reconnect. Let me actually, in the meantime, just summarize a couple of important points that she's making. One, she's talking about the connection between floods and disease. She's talking about how the world is witnessing a return to cholera. We're seeing instances of cholera rise, and she's saying that in the cities where this is happening, we have to be prepared for health complications as well. Sunita, you're back with us. I was just recapping what you were saying about the linkages between floods and health, and that's a very important point. We have the Chief Minister of Delhi saying 25% of water supply, drinking water supply, could be impacted. That's a concrete figure. I'm quoting the Chief Minister. Go ahead, please.
So, Barkha, as I said, the Chief Minister will be much more, he will have a lot more data on this. Barkha, sorry. Sorry, let me just repeat this, Barkha, and then if we can wind up, I'm getting a lot of calls, Barkha, so I think that's why we are getting disrupted.
Sure. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So just to make the point, I think the Chief Minister will have a lot more data on this, and he will be in a much better position to warn the citizens of Delhi. I just want to make a more general point that with floods comes water contamination. Now, in this case, what he's saying is even water supply could be affected because the two water treatment plants may not be able to work at capacity. I presume that's what he is saying. It is understandable, it happens, and that is why all of us will have to be clear, with floods will come health problems. It happens all over. And that's why we in Delhi, now that it's at our doorstep, I hope we will learn what the future really holds. And that if we don't get wiser, we don't get smarter, and we don't start acting, stop planning, just act. Because we are losing time every season, every year. The monsoon is getting more extreme, more variable. You will see more such extreme rain events, means flooding.
Right, Sunita, we'll let you go now. I know there'll be many people looking to you to make sense of the calamity that we are undergoing in North India, at least. Thank you very much. Take care, and I'm not going to hold on to your time much longer. I think a couple of important points there. No one is exempt. That is the bottom line. No city, no part of India, no part of the world is exempt. And we need to internalize that instead of going into an annual ritual of hand wringing, then carrying on with our lives as if nothing has changed and moving on to the next calamity. We leave it there. Our special continued coverage from the ground. We have a team of reporters. The images you're seeing on your screen are from them. If you live anywhere in North India and you are experiencing the ravages of the flood waters, please do contact our team, send us your videos, share your stories, and we'll be sure to follow up on our platform. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.